Hello and welcome to MKF 2131 Marketing Decision Analysis. Now, last week we have talked about communication, where we discuss promotion and also advertising. Now, as you probably can guess, this is going to do with the third P, I would say, which is pricing. And in here as well, we do have some sort of place or channel distribution as well. So we sort of covering sort of the 4 P's that we have in marketing. Now in week 9, we are going to talk about profitability and pricing 1, where we're going to discuss margins and profits. So if you have taken accounting 101 or if you have taken economics 101, I'm pretty sure some of these terms has been coined. So I'm pretty sure you will know some of these terms by now, but we are going to revisit these terms again. So at least you will know, so at least you get an idea on how are these subjects really interlinked. So you can't say that by graduating in Bachelor of Marketing, you just need to know something about marketing stuff, because nowadays business are all interrelated. You definitely need to know the costing side of it as well. So there you go. Especially for those people who doesn't like mathematics. So, you know, this is something that probably will let you down a little bit, but you know, I'll go through this slowly and one by one, and feel free to always come back and watch the recording. Now in this lecture, we are going to talk about basically profits and pricing. So how do we actually make money? What's my minimum size of making money and so on. So we're going to talk about margins. We're going to talk about fixed costs and variable costs. And the third one, it will be the break-even and contribution analysis. And the last one will be target volume and revenue. So let's get started. Now, margin. So as you can see in here, the unit margin, which is in terms of dollars, is represented by selling price minus costs. So in other words, if you think about it, selling price is our revenue. Cost, well, it's basically our cost. So if you think about unit margin, it's basically looks like profit. Because revenue minus costs, it's actually profit. But the difference of margin, in this case, is basically in unit. So that's what the unit margin is all about. Then sometimes they want to ask you what is the profit margin. Then this is how would you calculate that. So for example, in here, the unit margin divided by selling price per unit, that will give you the margin in terms of percentages. So we'll just go through some of these examples. So the first example, the cost of unit of iPad is $333, and the selling price of iPad 2 it's $500. So I'm not sure even iPad 2 now it's still out. I'm pretty sure there will be newer iPads going on, but either way, the example shows that way. So the way how you find, so this is the cost, which is $333, and the selling price or your revenue per unit, it's $500. So obviously the unit margin in here is positive because the fact that the selling price is a lot higher than the cost. So you are ideally making some sort of profit. So in here, the unit margin is 500 minus 333 because 500 is my selling price, which is right here, and 333 is my cost. That will give me 167. And then how would you calculate the margin? So you can use the formula right here, and that will give you 167 divided by the selling price per unit. That will be 500. So if you take a calculator and punch this into your calculator, you should be able to get 33.4%. So the second example here relating to Kindle. So you have Kindle at the cost price of 210. But actually, or in fact, the selling price is a lot lower. It's at 199. So Amazon lost $11 for each Kindles sold. Now, What is the margin for that? So the margin in here, it's going to be negative because the fact that now you are selling at a much lower rate than your costs. So therefore, you are actually incurring a loss. So because of that, my unit margin, it's going to be minus $11 because that's what's happening. And selling price per unit, it will be divided by 199. Okay, so $11. I'll just put the dollar sign here. So $11 divided by 199, that will give you minus 0.5%, which is what's the answer right here. So the question here is, why does a firm sell below its cost price? If you think about it, well, there's sometimes a legitimate reasons why we want to do that. So for example, you might want to do what we call penetration pricing. So penetration pricing, which is what Amazon did right here, is that you're charging at a lower level so that at least you can actually penetrate more market share. Because as people know about your product, as people know about your services, then you can ideally charge a bit more because people sometimes already start using it. Or for example, if you have bought so many Kindle books already by then obviously so let's say if there is a Kindle 2 coming out or if there is a Kindle 3 coming out, then you are likely to buy because you already purchased so many Kindle library, for example. So that's what penetration pricing. And penetration pricing can normally carries a negative margin. So I hope that makes sense about what margin is all about. Just now you will have the percentage margin or the profit margin, and you also calculate the unit margin. Then you also have what we call the average margin in percentage. So this is just basically the total sales minus the total costs divided by the total sales. So how would you calculate that? So let's say if you have two products, in this case 2 liters Coke and 1.25. So the unit sales is 240 and 600 for 1.25 liters. The selling price is $2.50 and $1.50 for 1.25 liters. And the total sales is 600 and 900. And when you total that, you can get 1,005. The cost, it's 200 and in here 300, okay, and so on, right? So that's what basically it's all about. Now, you can calculate a single margin for each product. So in here, you can calculate like as before, you can calculate the unit margin and then you can calculate the percentage margin. So that's what this is doing. Now, in here, you can calculate what is the average margin. So the average margin, it's basically the total sales of 2 Cokes, which is the 2 liters and 1.25 liters. So that will be 1,500. The total cost of the Coke, which is that plus that, so that will be 540, and divided by total sales. So in this case, what you can do, the average margin, so that's going to be 1,500 minus 540, okay, divided by the sales, 1,500. So this will give you 64%. Now, so we understand just now what's margin. Now the next question that we want to understand is what is actually markup. So there's a difference between margin and a markup. So a markup is actually a percentage added towards the cost price to arrive at a selling price. So I'll give you an example. Like for example, if a markup is 50% of the cost price, so let me just draw an illustration in here. So let's say this is the cost price. So the cost is, let's say, $10. Okay. A markup of 50% means that you are actually charging extra 50% of that. Okay. So in this case, the cost is 10, but the markup is 50% off the cost. So the markup, which is this part here, I'll say markup. So the markup here, it's going to be $10 times 50%. So this is going to be $5. Now because of that, the markup is $5. So now when you are charging this, it will be the initial cost that you pay plus whatever the markup is there. So these retailers are going to charge $15 for their product. So that's what markup is all about, is that there is a percentage added towards the cost. If you are retailers, you want to sell it to consumers, obviously you want to make a profit. You're not going to make a loss, you're going to make a profit. So because of that, then you add markup in this case, all right? And there's also markdown. So it works the same way, but it's just flipped. So in this case, our 50% markdown on the selling price implies that the product is sold for $7.50. Okay, so that's pretty much what markup is all about. Okay, so this is what channel margin is all about. So basically this is the journey on how the product gets into your normal retailers, like for example, Coles and Woolies for groceries. So let's talk about maybe Kit Kat. So first of all, obviously the manufacturer of Kit Kat, which is Nestle. So Nestle are going to produce the Kit Kat. So they buy raw materials from, let's say Africa. They're buying all the cacao and put that into chocolate and make that into a Kit Kat bar. And then it may sold to distributor of Kit Kat. So for example, if the Kit Kat is made in Indonesia, then obviously there will be a distributors in each of the country. So let's say there's a distributor in Australia. So they will be passed on or they'll be shipped to that particular region. Then it will be given to wholesaler. And then this wholesaler might be then passed on to retailers. So like Coles and Woolies. Then it ended up passed to you as your consumer. Now, some products might follow this way. Some product might be just manufactured straight away to wholesalers, then to retailers, to consumers. Some product might just jump straight to retailers and then consumers. Even some product might just go to consumers straight away. So different products are not going to follow exactly the same plan like this, but it's just saying that this is what's the normal cycle it's all about. But this is how generally a product passes through. Now, as you can see in here as well, obviously on each stage, they want to make money. So they have to increase the price from their costs, because or else there's no way for them to make money. And as it passed on, obviously they have to increase the price so they can do the markup or the margin. So, but the idea is that as you progresses along, it becomes more expensive because they basically add the markup or the margin. So that's pretty much all for channel margin. So in the next video, we're gonna see how margin and markup will play along in this channel margin. So stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video.